Hello and welcome to this presentation all about mindfulness. My name is Rachel Ceness and I am a health coach for BlueCross BlueShield of Western New York, and I am so grateful that you joined me today for this presentation. And we are going to be talking about mindfulness, and I'm going to be giving you some tools that you can use in your. So the purpose of this presentation today is to provide you an overview of what mindfulness is and how you can incorporate it into your daily life. So I want to provide you with some practical tips and tools that you can start using now. So these are going to be practices that you can kind of see what really calls to you, what resonates with you, and you can start to incorporate some of these things today. And I also really aim to empower you to create habits and practices that facilitate an overall more mindful way of living. Because as you'll come to realize throughout this presentation, mindfulness really is a lifestyle and it's a way of life rather than just one choice that you're making or one habit that you're developing for yourself. So those are my intentions for this presentation. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the state of active, open attention on the present moment. So rather than focusing our attention on the past or the future, it's all about being in this present moment right here and right now. So when you're mindful, you can carefully observe your thoughts and your feelings without judging them or labeling them as good or bad. You're really just kind of focusing on being in the observer mindset, in the observer mode. And mindfulness also means living in the moment and awakening to your current experience rather than dwelling in the past or anticipating the future. So like I said, it's all about this present moment, right here and right now, this experience that we're having at this very moment, rather than fixating or focusing your attention on the past or on the future. Some of the many benefits of mindfulness. I just wanted to go through some of these to give you a little bit of a glimpse, and this is of course not an exhaustive list of all of the benefits, but these are just some of the big ones that I'm sure will resonate with you, and I'm sure that you will be able to really get a feel for some of the shifts that you can have with incorporating more mindfulness into your life. So improved regulation of emotions and reduced stress, who doesn't want that? Increased immune function, increased clarity and thinking and perception, decreased levels of anxiety and depression, which as we know is such a huge issue and so very common. So reducing those levels and the severity, also enhanced feelings of connectedness, and really just improved general health. So like I said, this goes really beyond what I have listed here, but definitely there are a lot of health benefits and just general benefits that are associated with mindfulness, and there definitely is a lot of science and a lot of research that's been done and that's currently being done around this topic. So a little bit of the effect of mindfulness on the brain. So one particular study, which assessed people after an 8-week mindfulness course, found that the prefrontal cortex of the brain, the hippocampus, and other areas experienced heightened activity. Also, the amygdala experienced decreased functional activity and earlier deactivation after exposure to emotionally charged stimuli. So, if you're not a really scientific person, or maybe you don't know some of these terms or these. So if you're not a really scientific-minded person, or you're not really familiar with all of those words and all the vocabulary and the biology of the brain, what does this actually mean? The areas of the brain associated with higher level functioning were more active, and the area of the brain that handles stress and strong emotions was less involved. So the areas that we really want to stimulate more, that are associated with that higher level functioning, with focus, with intellect, with information, were more stimulated, and the areas that we want to kind of stimulate less, for example, fight or flight and stress response and strong emotions and reactivity, those areas were less involved. So the participants of this study experienced better emotion control, less reactivity, and higher levels of intellectual performance. Okay, so important things to remember about mindfulness is that it really is a practice, meaning it's something that you can work on and you can build it day by day. It's not something that you do once or that you try for a week and then you have it down and then you forget about it. It builds upon itself, so the consistency really is key. And another really important thing to remember that can, it can feel a little intimidating maybe if you have never heard of some of these things before, or if you're looking to really start to make a change in your lifestyle, is that it really does not have to take a lot of time or effort to practice. It can be really, really simple, and even 10 minutes of mindfulness exercises have scientifically proven benefits. So you don't have to be spending an hour or hours every day focusing on incorporating mindfulness into your life or these different practices that I'm going to mention. Even if you have 10 minutes a day, if you can devote that amount of time every day consistently, you'll really, really start to notice some powerful benefits. And another really important aspect to remember is that this can look different for everyone. So it's not about creating a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. And keep in mind that there is no right and no wrong way to practice mindfulness. So what works for one person won't work for someone else. Somebody will really resonate with one of these tools or these practices that I'm going to mention, whereas somebody else may not, and they might want to try a different method. And there are so many ways to incorporate mindfulness into your daily life that it really does not have to look the same person to person. So this is a really powerful little picture and graphic here. So as you can see, you are right there in the center. That's you in this present moment. And it says your body is present, is your mind. So our bodies, we don't really have any choice. We're kind of here in this moment, in this physical body that we're in. And our mind tends to be the thing that really wanders. And we're oftentimes focused on the past, or we're focused on the future. And mindfulness is all about getting our mind back in sync with our body. So getting our mind back to focus on this present moment. So how do I incorporate mindfulness? You might be asking yourself that and, saying to yourself, oh, this all sounds great, but how do I actually get started? Or what do I do to start to enjoy some of these benefits? So I'm going to go into all of these a little bit more in depth, but just to kind of give you an overview, one or a few simple things that you can do. One is to start a gratitude practice. So this can be as simple as asking yourself what you're grateful for today. And noticing that when you do ask yourself that question, you start to focus a little bit more on the present moment and what you have to be grateful for right now. You can also take a few minutes each day to just simply pause, kind of slow down, slow your pace. I know we all live in this fast-paced world and society where we oftentimes forget to just take a little bit of a pause, take a little bit of a breather, and just begin to look around and really notice the beauty that's surrounding you in the world. Also, meditation, even if it's only for 5 minutes, and it doesn't have to look like a formal, seated meditation or something that you might see, kind of depicted or stereotypical meditation. I'll go through this a little bit more in terms of meditation, but really it's just about enjoying a chance to be still and a chance to just be quiet and just to really tune out the noise and the chaos in the world. And even just something as simple as closing your eyes and allowing yourself to take a few deep breaths. Something like that can be really, really helpful and powerful and easy and simple. And you can do that at any point during your day. So a little bit more in depth on gratitude. So what exactly is gratitude and why is it so important? So this is definitely, it's become more of a buzzword in recent years, so you might have heard of it. Some people keep gratitude journals or have different types of gratitude practices, but I just wanted to remind you, what exactly is it? So gratitude is the quality of being thankful, and it's also the readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. The act of feeling and expressing gratitude itself can help to facilitate mindfulness and also provides an array of benefits in and of itself. So even just practicing gratitude, regardless of all the other mindfulness techniques and practices that I'm going to talk about today, can really start to have a beneficial array of effects on your health and on your life. And this is one of my favorite quotes down here on the bottom of the slide. It's not happiness that brings us gratitude, it's gratitude that brings us happiness. So that really speaks volumes, because so many of us have the opposite kind of viewpoint, that once we get to this certain place, then we'll be happy, then we can be grateful. And what gratitude teaches us is that by being grateful right here and right now in the present moment, we can actually enhance our level of happiness in our lives. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the seven proven benefits of gratitude. And again, this is not all of the benefits that are out there, but these are just some that are really important and really powerful. So it can open the door to new relationships. It improves our physical health. So you can experience things like fewer aches and pains and increased longevity. It can improve your psychological health, so you have fewer negative emotions. So just like that study on mindfulness with that picture of the brain and the different areas that were stimulated, you can kind of see the correlation here, and how a lot of these practices will help you to develop that resiliency and really allow you to focus on using those areas of the brain that help you just to have kind of a sense of balance and a sense of calm. Enhanced empathy and reduced aggression, better sleep, improves self-esteem, and also increases mental strength, and again fosters that resilience. And resilience, what that really is the ability to kind of weather the ups and downs of life. So of course we're all going to be faced with challenges at certain times in our life, and we're going to kind of go through this roller coaster of ups and downs. And having these kind of practices, like a gratitude practice or practicing mindfulness, it really helps us to become centered a little bit more easily after going through something like that. So when we have these tools, we feel more resilient. We feel like we can kind of bounce back a little bit sooner than if we were to not have access to these kinds of tools. Appreciating the everyday. So this is something that's really, really simple, but also something that's oftentimes overlooked. So mindfulness can be as simple as becoming more aware of your surroundings. So whatever is around you right now, wherever you are. So no matter what environment you find yourself in, you can always seek out something beautiful and choose to put your attention and your focus on that thing. So a lot of us, we're kind of accustomed to maybe seeking out the flaws or seeking out the negative or focusing our attention on the negative. But if we consciously choose to put our focus and our attention on the positive things around us, especially on the beauty that might just be in looking out the window or on your drive somewhere, just kind of really focusing and seeing things in a new light and really seeking out something that's beautiful around you. So appreciating the little things that you once may have taken for granted. So like I said, this is very simple, but it's also something that you can easily overlook because you might just take it for granted, or it might just be part of your routine, or you might not even see things that if you really took the time out to kind of slow down a little bit, that you would notice and that you would appreciate. Breathing. The power of taking a few deep breaths can slow us down, help us reset our mood, and bring us back into the present moment. And of course, this is one of the most accessible tools because we are always breathing. Of course, if we're living, we're always breathing. So this is something that's accessible to every single person, and we're already breathing, so why not be a little bit more conscious about it? And why not really focus your attention on allowing it to be a tool for you to have a little bit more calm in your life. So this is something that can be done anywhere, anytime. You can do it in your car, you can do it at home, at work, wherever you are. And I just want to go through a really quick little exercise with you all right now. So we're just going to inhale for 5 seconds and then exhale for another 5 seconds. And feel free to just, find a comfortable position and close your eyes. And I'm just going to walk you through a few of these breaths. So we'll inhale together. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. And one more. Inhale. And exhale. And notice how just those few deep breaths, not a lot of time at all, just less than a minute, you can feel the shift already in just your state of being. You probably feel a little bit more relaxed. You probably feel a little bit calmer and peaceful, and maybe even more appreciative or joyful. So something as simple as that, just reminding yourself to do it, is something that can really be very, very useful and very helpful. Another mindfulness tool that you can explore and that you can use in your life is meditation. So meditation really is much simpler than you may think. And if you are somebody who hears the word meditation and you feel a little bit intimidated, or you're kind of unsure about how to do it or whether or not you even can do it, you're definitely not alone. A lot of us tend to really overcomplicate it, or we think that it has to be this drawn out, long, extended thing where we have to be seated in one position for an hour in order to feel any benefits. And that's just simply not true. There are so many different varieties and types of meditation, including mindfulness meditation, guided meditation, transcendental meditation, kundalini, and qigong. And all of these are whole schools of thought and schools of practice, and you can certainly do more research on your own if any one of these kind of piques your interest at all. But it really doesn't have to be complicated. It really can be very simple, especially when you're just kind of getting started with the meditation practice, or you're just kind of wanting to try it out to kind of see the benefits for yourself. So speaking of benefits, the benefits of any type of meditation include reduced blood pressure, lower levels of anxiety, improved circulation, and deep relaxation. So lots of physical benefits, lots of benefits for our mental health, and really just all around on our holistic well-being. So this graphic really walks you through how to start meditating, and really just the key components here that are going to be beneficial for you to think about before you really dive in and before you kind of experiment with this practice for yourself. So one of the first things that you would want to do if you really want to try to meditate, or if you're kind of a beginner, is really just find a place, an environment that you're going to be comfortable. So you want to be in a position that you can be comfortable in for however much time you want to dedicate. So whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, just find a position, and you can be seated and you can sit like the girl in this illustration here, or you can just simply sit in a chair, or you can even lay down, however you're most comfortable. And then think about how much time you want to dedicate and kind of set that intention ahead of time. So you can, if you feel more comfortable, you can set a timer on your phone, or you can just kind of allow yourself to have a certain amount of time set aside or blocked out in your day or your schedule for this. And then from there, finding a comfortable position with your legs and with your arms and your hands. Closing your eyes can be really helpful just to kind of enhance the experience, and so you can feel a little bit more calm and you're not as easily distracted. One of the easiest ways to start to calm your mind and your body down is to focus on your breath. So like we did with the breathing exercise that we just did, really just start to focus on your breath and just focus on those inhales and those exhales. And when your mind does start to wander a little bit, you can always focus back on putting your attention back to your breath. Another important thing to mention that I didn't mention before in the previous slide was that you really, when you're meditating, you don't have to necessarily control your thoughts, which is a big kind of misnomer, I guess, or something that people oftentimes associate with meditation, that you have to control your thoughts, you have to empty your mind, you have to really have this focus and control where, if your mind wanders, you're not doing it right. And that's definitely not true, because we all have thoughts that are going to come into our minds, and it's okay. That's part of the process of, being a human. And the point here is that you can choose to just observe your thoughts rather than putting your full attention and focus on them. So one really helpful tool that I like to use myself is thinking of your thoughts as kind of clouds floating by in the sky, and just allowing them to be, allowing them to pass, allowing them to come in, but also to drift out just as easily as they came in. So what this does is it really helps you to allow yourself to remember that you don't have to focus your full attention on each and every thought that is coming to your mind. Another really powerful practice, and something that maybe you wouldn't necessarily think about in terms of mindfulness and in terms of living a more mindful lifestyle, is creating more focus in your life. And, obviously life is very busy and can sometimes feel overwhelming. And the more that we can limit our multitasking and simplify the way that we do things, or the way that we kind of adapt our schedules throughout the day, the more mindful we will allow ourselves to become. So focusing on one thing at a time whenever you can is really, really useful. So that will allow you to become more mindful with that one thing that you're doing. Because this might come as a little bit of a shock, but multitasking is actually known to reduce your productivity level by up to 40%. 40%. So that's huge. I mean, I was really surprised when I first heard that statistic. So it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, though, because like this little picture down here at the bottom of the slide really depicts, we're so often kind of scattering our focus and our attention on trying to do all the things at once. So if we're multitasking, our brains really can't focus on more than one thing at a time. So often it really limits our ability to focus, our ability to follow through with something. and our ability to really see something through to completion. Because if we're constantly jumping back and forth between thinking about or trying to do this and then that, and then, we're on our phone while we're watching something, while we're checking our email, while we're taking care of the kids, while we're doing this, it really does really limit the amount of focus that you have, because we only have so much focus. And like I said, our brains are really only meant to focus on one thing at a time. So the more that you can really focus and do one thing after another, instead of trying to do everything at once, you'll find that you can really streamline and you can really get those things done first, and then you can move on. So an easy way to start doing this is to start to prioritize your top 3 most important tasks each day and focus on those one at a time. So if you're somebody who makes to-do lists, or you're somebody who likes to stay really organized, or you have a schedule or a calendar that you follow, you can really start to think about, what's your top priority for that day? What are the things that you really have to get done? And start to kind of list those out and tackle them one by one. So instead of starting one and then 10 minutes later starting the next thing and then forgetting about it and going to something else, try to narrow in and try to get those few things done one after another in a sequential order. And then you'll find that you're able to really focus and you're able to get those things done a lot more easily than if you were to try multitasking. Reducing screen time. So of course this is a huge one too, because our use of technology really has become an epidemic, and it's reduced our attention spans drastically. So it really is a big problem, especially with the younger generations, with the youth, and because it has reduced our attention spans, we're not allowing ourselves to be as present and as mindful, because we're constantly seeking the technology. We're constantly seeking the stimulation, or doing something else, or opening up 5 different apps at once, or whatever it might be. So anything that you can do to cut back on technology, especially smartphones, can definitely help us to be a lot more present and a lot more mindful. So of course they are amazing tools, and they help to keep us connected and all of that, especially with social media and all of those wonderful things that we have access to. But definitely it comes down to being really intentional about your use of technology and about your use of your phone. And just think about it a little bit more. Just be conscious and really set that intention. I'm only going to go on here and do this for the next 10 minutes or something. And because I think we all know that feeling of kind of getting sucked down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden we've been scrolling on something for an hour and we just kind of lost track of time. And also remembering that focusing on real life conversations allows deeper connections and appreciation for others. So nothing can replace that. Nothing can replace those real life conversations. And it's great to stay connected with social media and with our phones, but the more that you can focus on really prioritizing and still having those real life conversations, will really allow you to be more mindful in your daily life. And another important point is cutting yourself off from technology 2 hours before bedtime really can help greatly with sleep quality. So of course this isn't always possible, of course no one's perfect, but the more that you can reduce your technology in the evening hours, it really can be helpful, because we're getting the blue light from our phone, which can interfere with the melatonin and the different chemical signals in our brain that allow us to relax and unwind at the end of the day. So if you can reduce that technology, if you can do something else in those last couple hours, or even the hour before you go to bed, read a physical book, or just kind of do something relaxing, something to unplug a little bit, that can really help, especially if you're somebody who does suffer with insomnia or have some trouble sleeping. Focusing on joy. So when you choose to pay more attention to the positive things in your life, your outlook will improve. So this is something that can be really powerful. I think we all know that what you focus your attention on kind of tends to expand. So if you are constantly focusing your attention on the negativity and the fear and the violence or whatever it might be that's around you, you're going to pick up on that more, and you're going to feel a little bit kind of brought down by those things. So limiting the complaining and the negative talk and just negative thinking, and beginning to shift your focus a little bit more to the joy, happiness, and the beauty that surrounds you every day. So it sounds pretty simplistic when you kind of look at it like this, but when you start to focus your attention, and even when you set the intention, okay, I really want to focus on the positive things in my life. I want to focus a little bit more on the good things that I have. I want to really be grateful for what I have. I want to stop complaining. I want to really just appreciate the things that I have in my life. You'll find that it's easier to do that the more that you focus on it and the more that you set that intention. Because what you're doing is you're kind of training your brain to look for the good instead of looking for the negative. So a really fun activity that I would highly suggest, if you have the ability and the time to do this, is to make a list of 10 activities that bring you joy and make a conscious effort to do those more often. So I like to call this a joy list. And this is something that's really fun to just kind of have as a reference for yourself. So if you are in a time period or having a bad day, or you're feeling kind of like you're in a funk, or you're just, something negative happened, you can bring out this list and you can look at these things that bring you joy, and you can pick one and you can do something, whether it's simple or whether it's a little bit more complex. And when we're in the negative, when we're in that state of being, that state of mind, we sometimes forget how simple it is to kind of bring ourselves back to a place of joy. And these activities can be as simple as a favorite song that you can pull up and listen to, or a music video, or calling a certain friend, or maybe it's going outside and going for a quick 10-minute walk, or anything that helps you to kind of lift your spirits, and just making note of that. And these can be simple, easy things, and these can be more maybe things that you only do once a month, or something that you might do less often, like go get a massage or something like that. So making this list and having that close by, so something that you can look at often and you can reference, and that can really help you to remember those things that can help to shift you out of those negative times and those negative feelings. So mindful eating, this is another tool, another mindfulness tool, and this is really kind of this could be a whole separate thing in itself in terms of, what it takes to eat mindfully and all of the different practices and things that you can use. But I definitely wanted to mention it here because I think it's really important, because eating is something that we all do every day, and so many people rush through their meals. We're eating on the go. We're mindlessly eating, mindlessly snacking. We're oftentimes not really conscious of how we're eating or even of enjoying the food that we're eating. So this often leads to a disconnect from our food. So if we do take the time to slow down, we can truly appreciate our food a little bit more. And this often ends up with us feeling more satisfied, and physically it improves our digestion, which is really cool because there is definitely a lot of science behind this too. There's studies that have been done with mindful eating and how physically it can really help to improve our digestion if we just slow down and we eat more mindfully. So this is especially pertinent for you if you have any sort of digestive issues, whether it's IBS or heartburn or anything like that. If you eat more mindfully, you kind of slow down your pace when you're eating, you enjoy what you're eating, you'll find that sometimes those issues actually can really become less pertinent and less common for you. Another important aspect of this is limiting distractions. So, things like the TV or the phone during meals, and solely focusing your attention on enjoying your food. So, of course, with mindfulness, everything is about being present. So when you're eating, what you're doing in that present moment is you're trying to focus your attention on enjoying your food. So this graphic here is really helpful when it comes to mindful eating. So you'll notice that this looks very similar if you're familiar at all with the My Plate, which is a common nutritional tool that kind of shows the different food groups on your plate. So this is similar to that, but it's just kind of showing the different aspects and the different components of mindful eating. So really just being aware, being aware of what you're eating and really tasting your food and really focusing your attention on the flavors and things like that versus mindless munching. Savoring the flavors, so noticing not only the flavors but the textures, the aromas, and really making note of that to yourself, or if you're with someone else, you can kind of bring that up and have a conversation or a discussion around that. Becoming the observer, so noticing the signals in your body is really helpful. And this can really be helpful too if you're somebody who tends to, maybe not listen to your body. Maybe you go past those fullness cues and you end up feeling overstuffed very often. Or maybe you're not listening to your body and you reach that point of starvation and you're not listening to your hunger cues. So noticing those things like rumbling stomach, low energy, feeling stressed, satisfied, full, empty, all of those things. Being in the moment, so being fully present, and this is, of course, what mindfulness is all about. So turning off the distractions as much as possible, and no one's perfect, but just, doing this a little bit more often can really make a difference. So turning off the TV, trying to sit down, not eating in the car, just eating and not focusing on anything else. And then non-judgment, so really trying to take out the judgment from yourself when you're eating and trying to be a little bit more compassionate and just a little bit more mindful on the way that you're speaking to yourself. So this slide just kind of goes through what I mentioned in that previous one. So, awareness, savoring, observing, being in the moment, and non-judgment. I just wanted to go through a few other ways to practice mindfulness because there really are so many different tools out there. There's so many ways that you can incorporate this into your life. A few other common ones that you'll hear of or that you'll recognize probably would be yoga. So the practice of yoga is something that can really help you to become a little bit more mindful with your movement and with all of that, with breathing, and it kind of incorporates some of those different aspects. Prayer, that's another way that you can just, it's really about focusing your intention and your energy on one thing. Journaling, that's a really, really powerful one too that I would highly recommend if you're wanting to really kind of find, more peace of mind and really maybe wanting to release some of your own worries or anxiety or just kind of jot down some of your thoughts. That can be really helpful. Immersion in nature, so just kind of getting out in nature, going on hikes or just really walking out in the woods or whatever it might be can really help to kind of bring you back to that present moment, because there is so much beauty in nature, and it makes it a lot more easy to become mindful because you can really focus your attention on those things. And one last thing here is just how important it is to keep in mind that pretty much anything that you do, any everyday activity, you can do it in a mindful way. So it doesn't have to necessarily be one of these specific activities or these specific tools. Anything that you do, whether it's driving, whether it's having a conversation with someone, whether it's taking a sip of water, you can do it in a mindful way. All that means is that you're really focusing your attention on it and you're really trying to be present in the moment and kind of slow down and really allow yourself to to be in that moment. So these are a few of the references that I used to put this presentation together. And some of the websites, especially the ones on the top here, those top 4 websites, those are all really helpful, especially if you're really interested in this topic and you're wanting to find some additional resources, some additional tools, some additional research or articles. Definitely check those out. Some further reading, if you're interested in doing a little bit more reading about this, especially on any certain areas related to mindfulness. These are some books that I would recommend. The first one is 10-Minute Mindfulness, so that one's especially helpful if you don't want to be spending a lot of time. You want to kind of focus on those short but powerful activities that you can do to incorporate in your life. The second one is called Mindfulness, an 8-week plan for finding peace in a frantic world. And that kind of gives you a more in-depth, long-term 8-week, 2-month plan for really, incorporating this into your life. The third one is Wherever You Go, There You Are, Mindfulness Meditation in Everyday Life. And the author of that, Jon Kabat-Zinn, is really well known in the mindfulness community. And that is a really excellent book. And then the fourth one here is Mindful Eating, a guide to rediscovering a healthy and joyful relationship with food. So if that's a particular area of interest for you, or even if that's something that you maybe struggle with, or that you feel like that would help you to just really strengthen that healthy relationship with food, I would definitely recommend checking that one out. So thank you for your time and attention. I really appreciate you taking the time out to listen and to watch this mindfulness presentation. I really hope that you got something out of it. Remember that, take whatever resonates with you and leave the rest, even if you kind of got a little bit of more awareness over something, or maybe you want to try out some of these tools that I mentioned. Definitely give it a try. And I hope that you are able to discover a little bit more mindfulness and a little bit more balance in your life.